With the country gearing up for the 2023 general elections, the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressives Congress will be facing major competition from other political parties looking to unseat them at various levels in all states across the country. If there is one state that PDP can't afford to lose, it will be the oil-rich River State. The governor of the state, Nyesom Wike, can be described as one of the major stakeholders of the PDP, as he has played a major role in making sure the main opposition party remains a force to be reckoned with in the country. The All Progressives Congress and other parties will have to put up a good fight to dislodge the PDP in River State. The Accord Party is one of the parties that will be seeking to wrestle power from the People's Democratic Party come 2023. The party's governorship candidate, Dumo Lulu-Briggs, has promised to run an inclusive government if he emerges as governor of River State in 2023. Joining us on the show this morning as we discuss his plans for River State and his strategies to oust the PDP in River State is Dumo Lulu-Briggs, governorship candidate of Accord Party, River State. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much. Good morning.
Well, it's good to have you on the program.
Thank you.
You've been quoted elsewhere as saying that Accord Party has such a strong structure on the ground in River State and very strong candidates as well to be able to dislodge the People's Democratic Party from power in River State. River State being known as a traditional PDP stronghold. Yeah. What gives you that confidence that your structure in River State is stronger than that of the People's Democratic Party?
Well, I wouldn't say it's stronger. We'll test that at the polls in 2023. But I would say that it's as strong as you can imagine. We have candidates, for all the elected positions. For the 3 senatorial seats, we do have candidates. We have candidates for the 13, reps seats, candidates for the 32 House of Assembly seats, and then we also have me, running, for governor. So we're quite grounded. You won't mention, political parties in Rivers State today and not mention the Accord. In the past, you probably say, it's the All Progressive Congress and the People's Democratic Party, but today you would reckon, with the Accord. We're everywhere, and our message is resonating with the younger people, with the middle class, with the business community. In fact, with everybody, in Rivers State, I think this is just that time when Accord, will make the difference at the next elections.
Well, you just mentioned younger people. You have your We agenda, which is a PVC registration and collection drive targeted at the youth. Is that one of your main constituencies? And how are you positioning yourself as a candidate for the youth?
Well, I've always, been minded about younger people. I have a foundation called the Dumo Youth Foundation 23, which runs across all 23 local government areas and provides opportunities for young people. We are trying to reposition, young people. So I would probably say that that's my primary constituency. But the We agenda is not just for the young. The We agenda is for everybody. We are saying that, that you matter, that you come first, and that we must put people first. You would agree with me that the years from 1999, to now have been disastrous for opportunities and also for equality. So for the first time, people are beginning to feel, that they're going to have a government that will be very concerned about them, that will put their ideas, their views, and their interests, at the front burner. That's what the We agenda is about, is that you matter, that everybody matters. And so we're going to run an all-inclusive government. And if you've noticed, we try to ensure that even in our campaigns, we're mindful of the sort of language that we employ. Because what's more important to us is the opportunity to have, a state that is cohesive, after the elections, so that governance, can be made easy. So we're not trying to employ language that will probably create irreconcilable differences. So in a manner that everybody will feel, okay, even though I'm not a member of the Accord, I'm in the PDP. Even though I'm not a member of the Accord, I'm in the APC or I'm in the ABGA. I think that this is a government, that I can, entrust my future to. So we're very mindful of the sort of things that we put out, and by the special grace of God, we shall win the elections and try and heal the wounds. There has been too much hate in our politics. The camaraderie we used to enjoy in our politics is gone. And so even the putting down of hate is enough agenda for the next government, in River State. And people have asked me, like you say, the APC is strong, the PDP is strong, it's a stronghold of the PDP. People have come to me to say, look, the PDP had, some high level of acrimonious, primaries. The APC also had some issues about how their candidates emerged. And so why didn't you try to exploit, the anger against Wike and Amici? And I've said, I don't think that I need to exploit that, because the temperature of governance we need in Rivers State in the next administration will not be helped, by trying to exploit, the anger against Wike or against Amici. I think that we need, to have a strong desire, by Rivers people for a truly representative, and progressive government. So that's what we're trying to look at. So everybody is happy with us, and the language that we're employing, it's mindful of the interests of everybody else, and it's looking to the future. It's looking to the day after the elections. And that's happening because we are very certain that 2023 is going to be a very defining moment for us, and we're most likely going to win elections, and then form the government. And we should be able to, as we say, that it's going to be a government that will accommodate everyone. We should be able to, have presented such framework through our campaigns and all of that.
You participated in the 2019 elections. You didn't make any traction. Not traction. A lot of people are saying probably nothing will change this time around in this 2023 election, that their court is not a strong party on ground. And also, secondly, they expressed concerns that what you might want to say is a political strength for you is because for you the riverine areas, the Bonama area, the upland area. There's also Tonya Cole, as also a veritable candidate pushing the agenda of the riverine area from that area. And thirdly, people are saying if you were that close to Wike and you really were interested in this governorship, then why can't he help you out? Because a lot of people have established your close relationship with Governor Nyesom Wike.
Well, I feel that you will say that I'm close to virtually everybody. The sort of politics I have played is without bitterness, and I've been in this business, for quite a while. From 1999, when I was just, a supporter of the PDP, to when I actually contested in 2003. So I'm friends with almost all the active political, players, in Rivers, including the governor. And these things are not, gifted. So Wike wouldn't give it to me because, I'm close to him. He will have to assess me based on, our relationship and based on what his own agenda is, for Rivers State going forward. And I'm not an establishment person, so I may not, suit that. But let us try, and put in perspective what happened in 2019. In 2019, we were all, in the All Progressive Congress until Tonya Cole, was chosen by the leader of the party, in the States. And some of us didn't like the way, it happened. So I became a candidate, of the Accord through the substitution. And then, of course, because they saw the traction that, the Accord, was gaining, by the day, the amount of young people, traders, ordinary men and women on the streets were coming out, and supporting the Accord. An action was brought before the Federal High Court that I wasn't a candidate of the party. And then the judge ruled, that I wasn't a candidate of the party, and that somebody who claimed that he was chairman of a Accord party, and that he did some sort of primaries, and then he emerged at that primaries and was the candidate, was upheld as the candidate of the party, by the Federal High Court. So we had to go on appeal, and then we won the appeal a day before the elections. And then the judgment in the judgment of the Federal High Court, the judge said that I shouldn't campaign, I shouldn't parade myself as a candidate, so we couldn't campaign. And at some point, a lot of people felt that I wasn't on the ballot. So even in my village, when I arrived, on the morning of the election, a lot of people didn't know that I was still on the ballot. So that was the confusion, that followed it. But look at the records. The Accord party still came third in Rivers State at the time. So it's not a party that was on, that wasn't getting traction or that people were not listening to what I was saying. The message, was resonating with the people of Rivers State. But again, going forward, after 4 more years of the PDP government, I think that they all agree that it's time, for a change. And then, I'd like us to look at what it was in Rivers State in 1999 and what it is with us today, in 2003. You will agree that in 1999, everybody felt that, if two states were to make tremendous progress, in Nigeria, that those states would be Rivers and Lagos. And that happens, of course, if they think that, commerce will thrive in those environments. And once you have your seaports and your airports, the thinking is that commerce will thrive in such environments. So in Lagos, they had their seaports, and their airports, both domestic and international. The same thing with us in Rivers. And then, in Rivers, of course, additionally, we had the petrochemicals, we had NAFCON, and we had the refineries. And by military decree, all the multinational oil companies had their headquarters in Port Harcourt. So I would say that that gave us a slight competitive edge. But what I think that gave us the biggest competitive edge was the fact that in 1999, Lagos State had the worst security situation in the entire country. There were incessant killings, daylights, robberies, and all sorts in Lagos. It was so bad that every street in Lagos had a gate. And those gates were shut at 6 p.m. So of course, at that time, we didn't even have the GSM. So even if your wife suspected that, well, that you probably, was having something, with someone, in the neighborhood, she will appeal to you that, look, my darling husband, if you can't come home by 6 o'clock, stay wherever you are and come in the morning. She wanted you alive. That was how bad it was in Lagos in 1999. Today, that same Lagos runs a 24-hour economy. And it is said that Lagos is the fourth largest economy or the fifth, in Africa. That is, once you take out Nigeria, South Africa, and Egypt, then Lagos has the biggest economy. So it's no rocket science. And we worry, as people in Rivers, that if these two states were at par. Now, where is Rivers State today and where is Lagos State today? So there's a reason, why people are thinking that, look, we will need someone who knows what to do, someone who is determined to do what it will take, to be there. And I'll give you a very strong example, and that will tell you about the strength of the Lagos economy. In 2016, I and a few friends decided that we should build, the Platform House. The name of our company is called Platform Petroleum, and so we should build the Platform House. So we bought a piece of land on Victoria Island. Got the architects, they gave us some very wonderful designs, and then we approached the building authorities for a permit to build. And they came back to us to say that by Lagos State law, all the buildings on that stretch, of road on Victoria Island must be a minimum 15 stories with 3 floors of parking. So either the first 3 floors, were for parking or you had underground parking. So we didn't qualify to build. We had to go back to the drawing board and then came back there and then, did 19 stories. But what am I saying to you here? It tells you about the strength of the Lagos economy, that you had the money to build 7 stories and it didn't qualify to be built. Now, if I want to do 7 stories in Port Harcourt today, some people will park their cars and marvel at what was going on. That just tells you the contrast between where we were at par in 1999 where we are today.
So that's as regards the economic damage. I asked you a question about you having another candidate coming from your same area in Abonema. How's that going to? Because campaign day, both of you from Atuzukuru local government, Agutoro local government area will have to square it out.
Well, it's the elections will not be determined by just Agutoro local government area, and I think that I have the popularity even in Agutoro local government area, to win. But then we'll leave that, for the electorate, to decide. And I'm not running purely because, I'm riverine, right? Yes, we need to accommodate those sentiments, but I'm running because, I'm a Rivers person. And then I have, a strong network of friends, and supporters, across, the entire state. I've done things, for Rivers people to the point, that they trust me. The ordinary man and woman on the streets, know who Dumo-Briggs is. I mean, I have name recognition across the entire state because of my antecedents, because of this level of things that I've done, supporting young persons, supporting, students, supporting, the elderly, and all of that. And basically showing concern about what is, happening with people, right, in their lives, in their communities, and all that. So I have that strong name recognition. And because I've also been, the private sector, I'm doing, what I'm doing right now. They think that I could bring private sector experience, to also bear. And because I'm also, a chief, right, I live amongst our people in our local communities. So I see the despair in their faces when I, go to the village every weekend, to spend some time with them. And they share, hopelessness. And also because, as an elite, I've dined, with the high and the mighty, in the political parties and all that. I can tell you for certain that even the population, of the wealthy is dwindling, while that of the, the poor, right, of course, is increasing. And as a young man, who at some point sold cold water on the streets of Port Harcourt, I understand exactly what it is, how, people feel. So I've been at the workplace, so I know, what it takes. Okay. And quite frankly, all of these things, are resonating with the people. So I feel that I stand a very good chance of winning the next elections, regardless of who is, running against me.
I like the point you made about you dined with the high and mighty. You left out the wine. I noted that. But, okay, you were quoted in this day, I think was it yesterday or 2 days ago, that bad leadership is the problem in Rivers State. Who are these bad leaders that you have seen in Rivers State that you want to replace? And what will you do differently?
Well, if I said that I was quoted out of context, I would not have said that. The sort of politics I play is not the one, that name calls. I don't do that. I hold all of them, in very, high esteem. They all have done, their best. I don't think that any one of them, is completely bad. They all have done their best. But of course, the evidence is that their best is just not good enough. Their best, hasn't taken us to where, we ought to be. But I agree that they all have done their own bits, at least today, we still have a state, that I can say that I want to be governor of. So they've done their own bit, in getting Rivers to where Rivers it is today. I wouldn't say that we have bad leadership. I would just say that, that the promise, of a great, country, a great state, we have a strong, operating mobile population. And they see, what obtains in other climes, and they want it to be part of their own story. They want, to experience those things. They want to see those big houses, those skyscrapers. They want to have a big cars. They want to live large. And so, how do you make that their reality? It's what is concerning, to everyone, and it's a ticking time bomb. If you have a population, of young people who are unemployed, then you know that you have your job cut out for you completely. So that's why, my own aspiration is resonating with a lot of people, because they know that, well, I don't only have the heart for the people, I also have the head, to get things done. And I've demonstrated that in my private lives. And so people have asked me, what are the areas that you're going to look at? How do you, expand the economy? And I've made it very clear to them. You don't have to vote for Dumo Lulu-Briggs because, you know him, because he's a philanthropist. You don't have to do that. You have to ask yourself whether or not I have the capacity, right, to grow the institutions of state, whether or not I have the capacity to expand the economy to accommodate all of us.
Right. Can we talk about how you plan to do that? Because you've just highlighted how Rivers State is comparatively provincial when you compare it to Lagos State. So how do you intend to actually boost the economy of Rivers State? And what are the other challenges facing Rivers State, and how exactly do you plan to tackle them? Well,
it's insecurity. It's one of the major issues. Unfortunately, if you look at the numbers, we had capital importation that came into Nigeria in the first quarter of 2022 of 1.6 billion. None of that came into Rivers State, so there was no foreign investment in Rivers State, and then there was none in the first quarter of 2021. There was none in the second quarter of 2021, none in the third quarter of 2021, and there was just $1 million that came in the last quarter of 2021, out of 2.2 billion that came into the country. So you see that, right, we're lacking in foreign, investment, and that's also because they probably think that the state isn't, very conducive right now for business. If you also look at the figures, you find that our IGR rate is also declining. I mean, in the first half of 2021, I think we had about 6 billion IGR, that we're able to raise in Rivers State. But of course, in the first quarter of 2022, it's about 50-something billion. So something is eating up, at Rivers State, and then we need to see how we can do things right differently. So, like we say, politics is war, but it's war without bloodshed. But we're engaged in that war, and then it's the war against hunger is there, the war against unemployment is there, the war against hate. And I believe that, if you fight those wars, illiteracy and all of that successfully, then of course, the war against insecurity would have been won, 90%. And I look at, the rational exuberance of the American economy, and I see that it is propelled by just 3 inventions, the microchip, the internet, and you ask yourself, and the computer, you ask yourself, what can we do, in Rivers State? And so the point for me is that those things didn't just happen, There was a strong, effort to try and fuse together the business community, the government, and the academia, and to have an innovation triangle. So I think that it's the same sort of thing that we need to do, in Rivers State. And I've already started that by trying to consult with the business community so that we know what exactly is necessary. For education, the key things are access, then relevance is also very, very key. So we're ensuring that everybody would have access. We're ensuring that the quality of education will be great. Because our private schools, were strong, right, whilst I was growing up. I'm a product of public schools. I didn't attend nursery schools because my father was poor and we didn't have at the time. But our public schools were quite strong. We had the best of, of teachers. For instance, at Government Comprehensive School, where I schooled, I was taught English by an Englishman. Our chemistry, physics, and biology lecturers were Indians and Pakistanis. That was our lot, in Rivers State. And I will wish that, that is the lot of every Rivers man, every Rivers woman, every Rivers child. That's not happening today. So there's got to be a lot of investment, in our public schools, to give the young people and the children, of the poor, the same access, that the children of the rich, have. How many of us could afford private education? So it's important that we invest very heavily in education. That's going to be key. I'm even running a pilot scheme now. I got an HMO to register 10 elderly persons per local government in all 23 local government areas. At personal cost, I myself and my friends put together the resources just to see how that will work. So that at least for the next 1 year, 10 persons across the local government areas, for 70 years and above, will have access to free Medicare. Now the reason for that is to see how that is going to work, and see if we can replicate that when we form government, and also see if it's possible for us to bring that also to accommodate the other very vulnerable group of those of us who will be from 0 age to about 6. So these are some of the pilot schemes that we're looking at, because we want to hit the ground running from day one. So I'm not going to say that we'll probably meet UNESCO standards for funding of education on year one, but I'm saying that it's going to be increased progressively as we go on, so that we're able to get young people into schools. The reason for that is that we want to be prepared as Rivers people. Perhaps the next big innovations and all that may come out of Rivers State. And if it doesn't come out of Rivers State, let our people be prepared to take advantage of those innovations. We know, and then of course we know that these innovations, when they come.
Okay. All right. Well, we'd like to say a very big thank you to you for your time. Coming to share this, and I'm sure the Rivers people are watching and they are listening.